Welcome to the show Gold Squadron Gays. It's the podcast where two Star Wars loving gays talk about and review their favorite Star Wars content while also being gay as hell. I'm your host, Bradley Brower.
I'm your other host, Charles Rogers, and I'm feeling a little in my feelings this week, Bradley. I'm having a little self-reflection.
Is this because of the collapse of America or the collapse of the computer system in America?
I mean, partially the collapse of the computer system in America. By the way, we're recording this on June the 19th, and my job was one of the ones impacted by the tech issues across the world. Today it was global. It was the entire planet. But no, I'm feeling a little self-reflective because... So my boyfriend has recently discovered a game called Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader. And I know kind of a decent amount about Warhammer 40k. Like, I could hold a reasonable conversation. But half the terms he uses, I don't fucking get this. And I'm wondering, is that what I sound like to people who don't know Star Wars when they talk to me?
I don't know. I feel like Star Wars is a little more simplified than some of that really nerdy shit. Like, I don't know. Like, I wouldn't be able to tell you what that stuff is. I don't even know where to begin with that. All I know is that Henry Cavill likes it, and so I like Henry Cavill. So therefore, I like whatever Hammer 74.
Warhammer 40k.
See, I wasn't even just paying attention.
You know what used to be my thing with that, actually? I have my like Stay Humble podcast, which is the Vorthos cast, which is a Magic the Gathering podcast that I listen to it. Okay. 1, so I can keep up on Magic the Gathering story. 2, because I think the hosts are really cool. But 3, it reminds me what it feels like to not know a thing that someone is referencing. It keeps me humble. My thing used to be Star Trek, and then I started watching Star Trek because some motherfucker decided he wanted to start a Star Trek podcast. And I need to make sure he's not talking shit about me on his Star Trek podcast. So I need to watch Star Trek now.
I would need to watch that too before I would ever start listening to them, because honestly, I don't think I've ever watched any of the original, nor the second generation or whatever the other ones are.
The Next Generation?
Yeah.
It's so I'm most of the way through the second season of the original series, and it vacillates between being pretty good even for now, like it holds up really well, and then there's parts of it that are bad. Like, genuinely, I've watched some of these episodes and I'm like, Did any of you talk to a woman before you approved this script? One woman. Did you ask? What did you? Lucille Ball was involved in. Yes, Lucille Ball was involved in the production of the show on a broad level. Did any of you take this to her? Like, was she cool with it? There's some stuff in there that I'm like, and
like,
you
wow.
have to, because it's 1966 through 1969.
Yeah.
But that's been my impression. Is the stuff that holds up really well. There's some episodes that are really good, and then there's some episodes that I'm like, what? Why? Anyway, everyone should listen to Holodeck Divas, the podcast that I've been working my way around to promoting. And the reason that I'm spending multiple minutes talking about Warhammer 40k, Star Trek, and recommending 2 podcasts to you, because I also think you should listen to the Vorthos cast if you like Magic the Gathering, is that I really didn't have a lot of notes on this episode, Bradley.
It's definitely an episode. I think it's just the ending of last week's drama. Like, it's really just kind of we needed to finish the plot a little bit.
It is a section of the plot.
Yeah.
That is my impression of it. It is a section of the plot that occurs. Because we are firmly into we are just going to keep advancing the main plot for every episode for the next 4 episodes, and then we're done.
No more distractions, no more side quests. This is the end game. We're done.
No more filler, nothing. Alrighty, well, Bradley, do you want to take us into talking about the TV show that we watched?
This week we're talking about The Bad Batch Season 3, Episode 11, Point of No Return. The Empire closes in on the Bat. Charles, what is one thing you liked about this episode and one thing you did not?
One thing I really liked was the slow and aggressive ramping up of tension throughout the episode. It's a very tense episode to watch. it is, you are riveted to your seat the entire time that you're watching it, even though you're essentially watching people run around back and forth. Like, so much of this episode is concerned with everyone running and hiding, and then they run, and then they hide, and then they run, and then they hide. But it's so, like, engaging to watch because it's so well directed. The score is so good. The voice acting is so good. Like, it's got this underpinning the entire way through. One thing I didn't like about this episode, it's hard to say because the episode was so aggressively fine that it's hard to pinpoint like one specific thing that I liked above everything else, but it's also hard to pinpoint one thing that I disliked because I honestly kind of feel like, I mean, I would go with, I feel like to an extent we maybe could have pushed some of the emotional beats a little bit harder, particularly the Omega and Crosshair stuff that kind of forms the center of this episode. Like if they'd had maybe one little exchange at the beginning or something, but they've kind of been doing it the whole season. And part of my issue with this show and all the Disney Plus shows, every single Disney Plus show, I have this exact same problem, except for The Mandalorian season 1. It is the only one I do not have this problem with. But every single other show is written to be binged. It is not written to be watched week to week. And so, like, there was great payoff to the Omega and Crosshair thing in the broader context of the entire season, but we didn't get a little bit of setup to make this episode feel like that was a complete B plot or A plot in the episode. What about you, Bradley? One thing you liked and one thing you did not.
One thing I liked, which we'll talk about in just a second because she shows up, is Fee for the small screen time that she does have this episode. I really liked her coming back. She's, one of the characters I've grown to like a lot over the course of these 3 seasons. So I love seeing her come back, even if it was just for a short amount of time. She'll be more prominent next episode, but this episode, I did like her little scene. What I didn't like about this episode was I didn't like the way this episode made me feel at the end of like, oh, we're back to where we started at the beginning of the season with Omega getting captured. I just, something about it doesn't feel earned to me. I don't know if it's just maybe I just didn't like the way they were like, oh, she's captured in the first half of the season, then she gets out, and then now she's captured again. Like, I don't know, something about that rubs me the wrong way about like we're just kind of repeating the story a little bit. Like, I get it. Like they need what I get what happens in the end, so I understand why she's captured again. However, I feel like we could have done something else to make this her go back to Tantus. I don't know. I just feel like her getting captured is kind of a gimme. Like it's kind of like oh, well, they have to go back anyway, so we might as well just have her get captured again. I just kind of feel like we needed something else. Something like, honestly, probably a Rex storyline of being like, hey, we're gonna go rescue the rest of the clones and blah, 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 blah. Like that seems to me like a better writing point than Omega gets captured again, but this time she's getting captured on purpose. Like, so I don't know. I didn't really love that, but I think that's what this episode did. Just it made me feel bad at the end.
All right. Well, let's take us into Act 1.
Section 1. We begin with Phee Genoa landing her starship on a moon's lunar base, where she is refueling her ship. CX-2 sneaks aboard her ship and accesses her navigation computer. He decrypts Genoa's navicomputer data after she departs, contacting Commander Scorch with confirmation of tracking Fee's visits to a specific planet, prompting Scorch to prepare a division for action pending target confirmation.
So I only have a couple of little small trivia notes about this scene. I'm going to read directly from the StarWars.com trivia guide. Quote, many interesting signs can be seen in the spaceport dock, including Fuel Plus and Premium, implying that gas sales in the galaxy far, far away aren't much different than in our own world, end quote.
Well, that makes me feel awful even more.
Yeah. And also she pays 1,600 credits for the full tank at one point, which as somebody who bought gas today and was paying mid double digits for basically a full tank of gas, I did feel that deep in my soul.
Yeah, but I guess in this situation, I don't necessarily think that that's that bad, only because she is filling up a literal starship. So I don't know if like the ratio of gallons or whatever it is in the galaxy adds up. I feel like it's like the equivalency of like, I don't know if you've ever done this, but if you've ever been like on a lake and you've been with somebody who has to go fill up their gas tank on their boat, like it's
no, because that fucking lake is haunted.
But what I mean is like literally it costs so much money to fill up a boat tank. So I feel like a starship tank is gonna be like, wow, I'm spending all my my money that I earned this month just to fill up my starship. Like,
Yeah, and that's like a common thing. Like it looking at even like Rebels, the amount of time that they have to spend like getting fuel,
right.
like and keeping the ship running in the first season is kind of hilarious. Just how much time they have to do this.
Yeah, and
Because
they
they
have to all
take a
have like
bunch of,
weird side jobs just to pay for
yep,
stuff.
just to
Like,
pay for things.
yeah,
Guys, capitalism is the real enemy here.
in a galaxy far, far away.
In a
Clearly.
galaxy far, far away, and also here. Speaking of capitalism, the droid that has to service the ship, because they're not going to pay for a person to do it.
Of course.
The droid that has to service the ship, that droid is being voiced by our old friend Matt Lanter. You remember Matt Lanter is the voice of Anakin Skywalker in basically everything animated for Star Wars. He also was most notably in Timeless a couple of years ago. Yep, and he was in 90210, a
That's where I
show in
remember him
which,
from first.
yes,
thing.
in which shirtless pictures of him in that show definitely had an impression on me as a teenager.
And
When I
this was
Googled
before
him,
I knew he was Anakin Skywalker, and I was watching that show being like, I like looking at this picture of this man not wearing clothes.
I wonder what this could. See, I Googled him because I was Googling the cast for the
Got
Clone
it.
Wars movie when it came out, and I was like, why am I having some thoughts about this? We weren't quite there. We weren't quite there. We would get there in a couple of months after that.
Right.
We would figure it out. But at the time I was like, what's going on here? So thank you, Matt Lanter, for your abs being part of my journey.
I appreciate him a lot.
I found it interesting because I know that there was some like discussion of like, is this guy tech? Is this CX Trooper tech? I found it really interesting that the CX Trooper is actually kind of bad with tech, like technology, because he sets off the alarm
Right, immediately, yeah.
immediately.
Well, I've always thought of CX2 and honestly CX1 because they didn't really change the design much of either one of them. They're basically the same thing. I don't know why they killed the first one and then replaced it with CX2. It was kind of a weird storyline.
They keep doing the CX troopers, and like again, if we'd had more time, we could have delved into the idea that they keep replacing these troopers
Right.
with more and more brainwashed troopers, and also we could have dealt with like maybe the CX troopers are a limited resource, and maybe it's kind of a big deal when Hemlock loses one because they don't have clones anymore. So he has a
Right.
limited supply, and like we could have dealt with this, but then we didn't because we didn't have time because we only had 15 episodes to wrap up what is essentially 3 seasons worth of emotional plot.
Right. And I think this CX, like you going back to what you were saying about being bad at tech, I think this CX Trooper is I feel like we've said it before. I guess he's supposed to be the mirror of Crosshair, so he's really more of the assassin archetype. He's not really the any good at anything else. He's just like
He's real good at being stealthy later.
Right.
He sneaks around.
Sneaks around a lot, but he's not very good at the tech stuff. So
This show is frustrating in that it comes up so close to saying something interesting. Like it has an interesting idea that someone had, and then it doesn't have the time or budget to follow up on that idea.
yeah.
And again, this is a broader Disney Plus thing because they keep making these shows way too short for the story that they want to tell. And then we're like, I needed more of that. Not even the sense of that was good. I needed more of it. Most of these have been pretty good and we needed more of them. But also just like, I needed more time to explore some of these ideas that you have.
Right.
That's the thing I like about the books is that you can really slow down and like really think about the implications of something.
And you know, we've talked about doing like a movie for Bad Batch later on. I think honestly, Bad Batch would also benefit greatly from doing a comic book series just because that's like almost unlimited, you know, kind of storytelling. You can just go as long as you need to go to tell the story you need to tell, right? Like, so they could just do issues upon issues of whatever fucking story they want to tell and then call it a day. I feel like that would benefit them if they want to do the in-between time between redacted ending of this season and the
We're acting
finale,
like this is a
you
big
know?
spoiler, like anyone's
I
watching
know.
the show along with us. I know everyone already watched it. We all moved on to the Acolyte.
Right. Well, they're
Which
they're
we'll
moving on
get
from
to.
the Acolyte.
To nothing, thank God. We have a
No,
moment
can you
to
believe the
breathe and catch
audacity?
up.
I saw someone with the audacity to post on social media to be like, "Well, can't wait for Skeleton Crew." I said, "Bitch, what? Like, shut the fuck up!"
Stop it.
Said, "Stop right now.
Stop it. It is the halftime show. It is the
Yes.
intermission.
Give
You're
us some
gonna
time,
pause
please."
for 30 minutes so I can piss. and get a cheap beer.
I'm like,
For the
just let
love
us
of
finish one
God,
thing.
please, please. Because we got knocked off because of the strike and we have not been able to catch up. And I have all these plans for other episodes that I want to do on stuff that's not the TV shows that are currently on, but we're trying to get through them.
Right.
Anyway, speaking of going through things, the droid goes up through the Jawa tube from A New Hope. I thought that was cool.
Section 2. On Pabu, the Bad Batch prepares the Marauder for departure. Liana expresses sadness over Omega's preparations to leave. Omega leaves Tech's broken goggles and Wrecker's Lula doll so that part of them always stays on Pabu. Meanwhile, CX2 approaches Pabu Island and conceals his starship in a nearby cove. CX2 spots Omega and informs Scorch, who orders him to capture Omega unharmed. Sensing danger, Hunter alerts Omega to prepare for departure.
My first note is, God, this show's so pretty.
They love to show like scenic shots all the time of Pabu, especially whenever they're just like, we need to fill the time. They're like, let's just do a little shot over here of Pabu, a shot over here of Pabu.
Yep, they love being like, shot of Pabu. We can do good animation now.
That's right.
It does not look blocky like it did in the original Clone Wars show, which was revolutionary for its time, but now it looks fucking gorgeous. Anyway, that's where all our budget went, so we didn't have the money for more episodes. And to be fair, it pays off because it looks gorgeous.
No, it looks great. I can't complain about it at all.
I love the kids' little tropical outfits. The little
Oh
clones.
yeah, the little
clones.
what is it? Zeke and Dak, or I forget their names.
Zeke, Dak, and Mog, I think, are the three. I don't remember.
They have interesting names. Oh, Mox, Deke, and Stack. There you go. Sorry, I pulled up the Wikipedia. And I also love that they have ice cream, and they're just
yes. And Wrecker even references the ice cream cone in the earlier scene. He's like, "Get me an ice cone. Actually, get me two ice cones," because he wants to shotgun him.
I love that they've adapted to the island lifestyle. They're like, oh, we wear island clothes now. Like we're definitely a part of the culture. We're definitely a part of this island now. We live here, and like this is their home.
They're kids. Like, they're not going to be walking around here like the Batch with adult problems. That's not their purpose here. They're kids. They need to be kids, and they are clearly like being kids on this island. And that is very cool for them, considering the fucking nightmare hell that they went through in episode 2.
And now I'm wondering, do they have like their own apartment somewhere? Like, where do they live? Like, do they just live in like some random person's house with them, or do they just like? My
guess is they probably have tasks that they assist with, and they also have a place that they live, because it seems like Pabu has like a more community mentality.
Right.
So I'm certain they would have worked something out. This does not seem like a place steeped in late stage capitalism.
Right. Somebody's going to be like, well, you can always stay with me, or you can always use my house for housing people or whatever. And yeah,
right.
I'm sure
it feels like there's a lot of mutual aid going on this island.
For sure.
And we will actually like see it later on, or we'll see some of the effects of it. But this is a community. This is very much a community, and these kids have clearly been accepted into this community. So they lay the tech goggles to rest, and I'm like, hooray, finally 12 episodes, because we're on 11 or 12. 11 episodes into this show, we are finally addressing the matter of Tech's death, when she's laying him to rest spiritually on the island.
Right.
Finally, crumbs of dealing with this, which I did really like this moment. I liked that she tried to lay him to rest on the island.
You know what would have been a really good fuck you in this moment, though?
What?
Would be the revelation that right after she does this, she's like, okay, I'm leaving his goggles here. You know, he's put to rest. He's on the island. Peace. Everything's at peace. Would be the revelation that CX2 is actually Tech. If they had revealed
that's where
that,
I thought this was going when I first watched the episode.
I thought so too. I thought they were going to be like, he's fucking them over, and it's like, why is he doing this? And it's like, because he's a brainwashed Tech. Like, that would have been
thematically it makes sense too, because he comes back, right? Tech goes out and he dies, quote unquote, and he comes back and he's laying siege to the place he considered home. Like, that's thematically relevant.
Right.
But no, CX2's just some random guy.
He's just a random dude.
He's just a random dude.
Guess we need to be in the writer's room for the next show because clearly.
Hire me. I'm
Just, I
I'm
don't even want to
available.
write. I just want to tell them my ideas and then just be like, or like they come to me with the script
There's
and
a
I'd be like,
word
that's
for
good.
that. There's a word for that, Bradley. It's called being an executive.
Yeah, that's all I want to do.
That's what you want to do.
I want
You
to be
also
in my
have to
executive
do you,
office and just
you also
they
have to
come to
do
me.
mountains of cocaine.
Well,
Just
that's easy,
absolute mountains of I mean,
especially
we
if I'm
are
trying
gay
to
men.
read all these scripts.
That's true. You have to do a lot of cocaine in order to be awake, in
Right.
order to read all these scripts. That's why so many writers are constantly
No, I'm
on
gonna be a
it.
horrible boss and I'm gonna have my assistant read it to me. I'm gonna be like, no, do the tech voice. No, do the crosshair
You're
voice.
gonna make your
No, I'm gonna
assistant.
call D. Bradley Baker on the phone and I'm gonna make him do it. I'm gonna make him read every iteration of the script to me.
He's gonna
That's how
pay off
powerful
his
I am.
He's gonna pay off this mortgage that way. You just be like, yeah, here's two
Like, here's,
thousand
yeah,
dollars. Come in for an afternoon and read this whole script to me.
come on your lunch break and read the script to me while I eat my lunch and you do all the voices. And then I'll just see, I'll like an audiobook. I'll
He
be like
can
listening
switch on
over
a
you.
dime.
I
Like
know,
I've
so that'd be
literally
great.
watched him do it. He can switch on a dime.
I love it.
I also love how there's several instances in this episode where they almost catch the CX trooper and barely miss him. If Wrecker had been inside the ship, they would have caught him. If Fee had not been somewhere with the music on, because they make a point to show that there's loud music in the waiting room, she would have heard the alarm. There's multiple instances where they almost catch the CX trooper, and it basically is he got lucky. Like this isn't a skill matter. The only skill he really displays above normal is his shooting ability.
Which is why I keep iterating the fact that he's really just Crosshair. He's just evil Crosshair
Yep.
now. Like,
He
it's
just
not
gets
that
lucky
special.
here.
Yeah.
Anyway, I also love the scene where he's like scanning people because it does remind me of the video game Bounty Hunter, which
Oh,
did just get a Switch re release or it got one announced. I
okay.
just know I need to play it because I loved that game. And one of the things in that game, so in that game, you play as Jango Fett.
Right.
And one of the things you can do is in every level, you can scan all of the goons and all of the civilians and every NPC that's around. You can scan with your little, like, the little thing that he has on top of his helmet. And there's a chance for, like, there's like 5 to 10 per level bounties in the
Mm.
level. And it's actually one of the really challenging parts of the game is trying to get all the bounties because you have to like scan people who are straight up attacking you, but then you sometimes you have to like you can find a vantage spot where the enemies haven't triggered yet and you can scan them.
Oh yeah, I guess I was when I was seeing his screen, you can see their files almost pop up on the
Hmm.
left or whatever, and you're
Hmm.
like, oh, that's Crosshair. Oh, that's Wrecker or
That's all
whatever.
remembering
Yeah.
how that's basically how they did it in Bounty
Interesting.
Hunter.
Section 3. As the Bad Batch say their final goodbyes, CX2 sabotages the Marauder with timed explosives, prompting Wrecker to save Gonki from the blast. Hunter evacuates him for treatment just as a Star Destroyer arrives, and Imperial forces descend on Pabu. They begin cutting off escape routes and causing panic among the locals. Omega blames herself for the destruction, but Hunter reminds her that this is the Empire's fault.
So RIP to the Marauder,
Why
and
do they keep
also
doing
Omega's
this?
crossbow, which was on the Marauder.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. I was thinking more of like the Disney Plus shows love to have the main character's ship destroyed randomly in one of the seasons for no reason. And this is at least they did at the end of this show versus
Yes, it took
randomly in
them all the
season
way
two.
to the end. Yeah. So RIP to the Marauder. Sorry about
Which is
that.
sad. I love the Marauders design because I bought the little mini micro one, Galaxy one,
Mhm.
and it's so cute. I have it hanging up for my ceiling. Like it's fun. I love the shape and design of it.
For my birthday, I can't remember if it was the first or second year that we were dating. My boyfriend got me the Lego Marauder, so we
I love
actually
it.
have the Lego. It's hilarious because the way it's set up on my shelf out in the main room is it's the Marauder, and on the shelf right above it is the Lambda shuttle. So we
Oh
have the
yeah.
two right next to each other.
And they're kind of like I'm not gonna say they're cousins of each other. They're like vaguely like they're a similar like design where the wings fold up when it lands, and it's like a
Well,
I don't know.
the
It's like a nice.
Marauder is a variant of the Republic shuttle that we see, which will in 20 years morph into the Lambda class shuttle.
Oh, okay. That's why I like it. That's also because it's semi, I guess, what is the rule of thumb? Triangle shape that
Triangle
it
shaped.
looks vaguely evil, so it's like
Yes. If you're in a Star Wars and your ship is a triangle shape, that means you're a bad guy.
which we saw earlier with CX2's
Yes.
triangle, literal
If
triangle ship.
if triangle, then evil.
Yes, I like it.
If you have green lasers and you're a starship, you're evil. But if you have orange lasers and you're a starship, good. But the lightsabers are reverse. So if you have a red lightsaber, you're evil. But if you have a green lightsaber, you're a good guy. And that did not make any sense to me as a kid.
And they just throw in purple lightsaber for
Then
no
they
reason.
now they're throwing in purple. Now they're throwing in yellow.
Oh yeah, now they're all yellow ones now, and then they try
Now they
too
have
much.
orange. And then you have lightsabers that change colors.
Not talking about that,
Not
but okay.
talking about that, but I can explain that. We
I can't wait.
we will talk about that when we get there. We will talk about. I do think, apropos of nothing, everyone should go back and listen to our Darth Vader episodes, where we covered the Darth Vader comic for no particular reason. I have to shout out the moment the Venator shows up as a 100% cool top 10 moments in this show moment. Because this is everything about this is perfect. The slowly ramping up music, everyone turning around to look. We don't actually see the Venator like drop out of hyperspace or anything because it's in the atmosphere of the planet. But we see it like looming up above, like it's clearly come up from below. It looks incredible. This series of shots in a row is incredible. 100% one of my favorite directed moments from this entire show. And then we get the destroying of the ships, which is some really evil shit because that is their livelihood.
I love when
They're
they do
a
that,
fishing
honestly,
village.
because you're just like, they didn't have to do that. They're on a fucking island. You know what I mean? Like, where the boat's gonna go? Like, unless clearly we're not seeing the rest of the planet, which we don't know anything about yet.
It's just water.
Yeah, it's just
The
water.
rest
So
of it's just water.
I don't imagine there's like more places for the boats to go unless we just, again, are not seeing other random islands that are maybe farther away that we just can't see. I don't know. That's just speculation, but I'm just like,
Planets
that's
are
just evil.
big. But yeah, like they're also like I think they're more concerned about them taking Omega out onto a boat and waiting.
Yeah.
And like getting super far away from the island and then coming back after they're gone. But either way, like they could have locked the boats down. They had an entire division of stormtroopers. They had a fucking Venator.
I was gonna
In the
say, I think
air.
everybody that fits on the Venator could like populate the island. I mean,
You could lock
like-
down the island, but no, we got to destroy it because we're the Empire and we've only got one
Yeah.
thing. We've only got one thing that we can do in response to things.
Section 4. CX2 orders stormtroopers to conduct a thorough search for Omega in every home on Pabu Island. Mayor Shep confronts CX2 over the Imperial assault, and CX2 warns it can get much worse unless Omega is surrendered. Crosshair and Omega hide in a stairwell while stormtroopers mistreat protesting villagers. Batcher retaliates, drawing their pursuit. Inside Liana's home, AZI reports Wrecker's stable condition despite being unconscious. Meanwhile, Hunter ambushes and dispatches a stormtrooper in the marketplace before commandeering a gunship. CX2 intervenes by fatally shooting the pilot, causing the gunship to crash into the sea. Observing from afar, Crosshair watches as Hunter narrowly escapes the sinking wreckage, swimming ashore to safety.
I love how Shep is like, what is your reason for being here? Motherfucker. They don't need a reason. They have guns. they have shown up with a bunch of guns. They clearly do not care about the proper authorization. The authorization is the blaster and the capital ship they showed up with.
And I just thought of something. Is Pabu a part of the Empire?
I mean, the Empire would consider everything a part of the Empire.
Right, but like based on it's such like a random location, it's out of the way. I'm wondering like is it something they just don't think about, or is it something that's genuinely not a part of the Empire and they're just there against the like they're just kind of
I
like
feel
a
like it's one of
settlement.
those random gas station towns.
That's what I was thinking, like it's like a
in the
settlement or
middle of
something.
somewhere really big like Texas, to where technically you're in Texas, but nobody in Austin's gonna think about you.
They're like that's
Unless
just
they
some
have
random
to.
place.
That's just some random place. That's not even on a highway.
It says Outer Rim
Yeah.
territories.
Yeah, no, it's far the fuck out there.
Yeah, so I don't think this is technically a part of the Empire. So
I-
technically they're illegal.
think, well, they have to be part of the Republic because generally speaking, with the exception of the Chiss Ascendancy, most of
Yeah.
the places we know about in the galaxy far, far away are part of the Republic. There are borders to the Republic, like it's not the whole galaxy. There's bits of like the blanking on it, beyond the Outer Rim, unknown regions. out in the unknown regions where they haven't mapped that far, but if you're in the Outer Rim
Okay.
and back, if you weren't part of the Republic, you're definitely part of the Empire. The Empire has jurisdiction wherever the Empire shows up with a bunch of blasters and decides it has jurisdiction.
Right.
Because you can't stop fascism with rules and regulations and committees. It will hijack those and it will roll up with blasters. And Batcher's response is the correct one.
I was worried when this happened too, because I was like, okay, so Bachelor, she's gonna like run off, and they're like, I was like, how is this episode gonna end with them randomly finding her again? Like just being like, okay, come with us, we can escape. And I'm like, they're not gonna escape. Like I think this is the point of the plot where I was like, if Bachelor's not with them, they can't leave with her. So unless they're just gonna abandon her on Pabu by herself, which is something they could have done, I guess. But I just in my brain I was thinking, nah, she's part of the family now, so anywhere they go, Batcher has to go with them. So if Batcher's separated from the group, then that means that Batcher's not coming with whoever is leaving, is what I was getting in my brain. And I was like, or now we know no one leaves the island.
Right.
Is
Well,
what
now
it's
we
telling
have
me.
to get Batcher. We also have to get Batcher away from Omega. Like, this is a narrative
Right.
device to get her away from Omega so that Omega can. Because Batcher would never let Omega go out by herself,
Right.
as she does later in the episode. My next note is, oh, look, AZ is doing something medical.
Finally.
Finally, we remembered that AZ is a medical droid, although that has come up a couple of times in this season.
True. But I do think they forget sometimes.
I love the little moment where like Omega's watching the stormtroopers like harass the people of Pabu because it's like, yes, yes, actually, there is not a place so remote that fascism will not touch it if it has a reason.
Right.
If it feels like it has a justification for being there, it will go. There is no place that is safe. There is nowhere you can run. That is not how it works. There is nowhere that they're just gonna leave alone if you give them a reason to come there. But Star Wars is not political. Anyway, I also love how they see an insanely flying ship and are immediately like, oh, that one must be Hunter.
Oh, yeah, for sure. They're like,
For sure, they're like, yeah,
something's happening on that one. Yeah, for sure.
that's Hunter. And then the pilot immediately gets shot.
I thought that was so savage of
That was
CX2.
crazy.
Because
That was crazy.
he says on the comm or whatever, he's like, he's got control of the ship. Like, I can't shake him loose or whatever. Like, da, da, da. And then CX2 goes out of his way to be like, well, I'm going to solve this problem right now.
He's also clearly a sharpshooter, so you know what he could have shot? The engine.
Yeah, he could have done a lot of other things
He
except
could
for
have shot
killing
the
the pilot.
fuel. He could have shot any number of things, but he just decided to shoot the pilot.
He chose to shoot the pilot, which is very telling of his ruthlessness and just who he is. Well, because like you said, the CX troopers don't have any kind of clearly emotion or like any kind of ties to anything. They don't care. So
No, they're
killing a
acting on
random stormtrooper is not going to bother him in
yeah, they're acting
any
on
sense.
pure rationality. Like pursue the mission at all costs. No mercy, no hesitation. That's their thing. And in that way, they are meant to be a foil to the batch, who, yes, is going to pursue the mission, but they're also going to look out for each other. And the CX troopers and the Empire broadly in general are not going to do that. That's the foil between the two.
Section 5. As stormtroopers close in on the batch, Omega suggests surrendering to the Empire to find the coordinates to Tantus base and rescue their clone brother. She plans to keep her comm active to transmit coordinates, but Crosshair doubts its success. Omega surrenders to CX2 to protect the civilians of Pabu. He takes Omega into custody, confiscates her comm, and departs with her aboard his ship. Crosshair's attempt to track them fails, and Omega reflects calmly as they enter hyperspace.
This is a stupid plan.
It's a terrible plan.
This is a god awful plan.
He's like, he literally explains how bad the plan is as she's saying it. She's like, oh, I'll keep my comm on me. He's like, they're gonna track that you have a comm on you. Like, they'll find it.
They're gonna figure that out
And
pretty
she's like,
immediately.
I like how she goes, well, then just do a second tracker on the ship or whatever. Like, Omega, like, how much time do you think I have right now?
I do like that Omega does point out that they kind of have no other choice than to do this incredibly dumb plan.
True.
Like, because I'm racking my brain here trying to think of, like, what else could they possibly have done? There's really
There's no solution.
no solution here.
Because they were
that's
going
not
to either
this.
destroy Pabu and find her anyway, or not destroy Pabu and find her. Like, it's one or
Yeah.
the other. Yeah. There's no other choice. She has no choice.
They also consider blew up the Marauder, which had all of their gadgets in it. So
That's
they
true.
were limited to literally what Omega and Crosshair had on their person at the time, which is probably very lucky that the Bad Batch always wears their armor everywhere they go.
True. I guess they were preparing to leave, so I guess it's not weird that they were wearing their armor or anything like that. They were like, "Oh yeah, we're ready to go," kind of thing, you know. And I do find it interesting though that they had to take out Wrecker during this whole entire ordeal because he could have helped them muscle their
Right.
way out of this somehow.
We had to remove him and then we had to remove Hunter. So we had to get it down to a point where it was just Omega and Crosshair. And we had to remove Batcher. So
Right.
just Omega and Crosshair are responsible for deciding what to do to try to save all these people's lives. And Omega knows how to speak Crosshair's language enough by this point that she's able to convince him to go along with this plan.
And he's kind of at the point where he's not going to say no. I mean, he
No,
he is like begrudgingly saying no, but he's like he's never going to not tell her you're right, like or you're not right. Like he gets it. Like he understands the plan. He's like I don't
he's
like
gonna
it,
trust
but yeah,
her. And
right.
she doesn't let anyone down at the end of this. He does. The fact that his aim is off, that that's never really been addressed
Yeah.
to him, is what gets her captured with no hope at this point of finding her. A thing that, man, if we'd had more time in this season, we maybe could have addressed in the next episode. But we'll get there. We'll get to the quote unquote addressing of this particular moment. I would be remiss if I did not bring up the flamethrower. Is the flamethrower useful for burning down civilians' homes in order to threaten the child that you are attempting to abduct out of hiding? Yes,
Work,
apparently.
works pretty well. I because she
Works
immediately
pretty
comes
well
out.
for doing that. Again, they have these big old flamethrowers with the actual flame in there. It makes sense. But it's also worth noting this is not the first time we have seen flamethrowers in Star Wars used to torch civilian buildings in order to do terrorism. We've seen Death Watch do it in the Clone Wars. Tried and true use of the flamethrower. But I had to bring it out. Even though the flamethrower doesn't really go off
Right.
in this episode, it is there.
You got lucky this time.
I got lucky, unlike Crosshair, who misses.
Ugh, too soon.
What the fuck do you mean too soon?
I'm just kidding.
It has been multiple weeks since this came out. It has been months. It has actually been like 2.5 months since this came out.
Still too soon.
Still too soon. I will say I do like that Omega is the final shot is she's meditating.
She has resigned, like she knows like this is part of the plan now. Like she just is going with it.
Well, she also has confidence that like they're gonna come and get her.
Which I don't know why she does because that's a terrible, terrible confidence to have because they literally have no idea where Tantus is.
This episode was directed by Nathaniel Villanueva and it was written by Amanda Rose Munoz, who wrote the last one. That's who wrote and directed this episode. Bradley, do you have any final thoughts on this episode?
Final thoughts were I think it was a very concise and, quick story. I don't love the writing to the point of I feel like we could have come up with some better way to get to Tantus other than capturing Omega yet again. I will say that after watching this though, I do like that it is now her choice to be captured. It is her choice to come up with a way to get there and get her brothers out of Tantus and now we'll find out the kids later on. But I think that that's a better story to a point. I still don't love that. I feel like we could have done something with the Rex storyline of maybe we find Rex and we come up with a plan to get to Tantus. Like I feel like this whole entire episode could have been like finding intel on getting Tantus with Rex or something and like and then we get to Tantus some other how. Like I don't know. I know that we find there's other
I was
ways
gonna
we
say
find
the way we get to Tantus
yes
is interesting
we'll figure that out
and
in the
makes
next
sense.
episode, right? However, I feel like there's a little bit of a like we either have not enough episodes or like the episodes just weren't used, I think, in the most productive way. I feel like there's a few episodes that could have been removed or replaced with better plot that would have made this season a little bit stronger. Not that this isn't a bad season. I just think, or that this is a bad season. I just think that there's just moments, and this is one of those moments where I feel like I don't love this storyline, but it is what it is.
This is an enjoyable episode to watch with my eyeballs and consume the information with my brain, and it really didn't do anything beyond that, and it really didn't need to do anything beyond that.
Fair.
That's basically my take on this episode. Every time I've watched it 3 times now, and I enjoyed it immensely. But it's not one of the episodes that I'm like, oh my god, this is beautifully and artistically done. Like, it's not like the Crosshair episode from last season.
Right.
Like, it's
a mid
serving the
episode.
function. Yeah, it's serving the function that it needs to serve in the overall arc of the story. It's moving us very firmly into the finale. I do also think that it was good, going back to what we talked about last week, to pair it up with Identity Crisis. Identity Crisis very much is a slow, character-focused episode. And so pairing up a slow, character-focused episode with this incredibly fast-paced but not particularly deep episode
Right.
was a good blending of the two. Alrighty, well, next week we are covering The Bad Batch, Season 3. What fucking episode number?
Episode 12,
It's 12.
Juggernaut.
Juggernaut.
There you go.
Wait, I feel like I'm forgetting an episode because there's Juggernaut. No, I remember. I remember now what happens in the next 4 episodes.
Okay. Just making sure.
I was like, I remember. Anyway, we're doing episode 12, Juggernaut. Pluggables. Bradley has reality TV shows, and we plug one of them at a time, which we're doing The Circle on Netflix, season 6. But I'm going to change things up and remind our viewers that Bradley has also worked on Married to Medicine season 10 and the first season of Queen's Court, and also Season 5 of Temptation Island. And these shows can be accessed various places that I'm too lazy to look up, but probably on Peacock and Bravo. So that's all things that Bradley has worked on. Over on my side of things, I'm a cast member on the Star Wars TTRPG podcast For Light and Dice. I also write gay thriller mystery novels for Kindle Unlimited currently. It's going to broaden out later. The first one is called Beach House Studios. Beach House is 1H, one word. And the second installment of the series, which is called Second Shoot, is coming out August the 3rd. So those pre-orders are available now. And that's all of the pluggables, I think. I will also have another pluggable announcement soon, but I'm waiting for them to actually do it so that I can announce it. But if you follow me on social media, you probably already know what it is. Anyway, Bradley, rather like the Empire running away from Pabu after capturing Omega, let's run the socials. I don't know how to outro a podcast. Thank you for listening to this episode of Gold Squadron Gaze. Did Charles fuck something up? Email us at goldsquadrongaze@gmail.com to let us know. You can also find us on Twitter at @GoldSquadGaze, and you can find us on TikTok and Instagram at @GoldSquadronGaze. You can also find us on YouTube at our Gold Squadron Gaze YouTube channel, where we post full episodes of this show. Finally, if you liked the show, don't forget to rate us and give us a review on your favorite podcast platform. That allows other people to find our show. As always, thank you for listening to Gold Squadron Gaze, and we'll see you next week. I don't know where my brain is at tonight that I keep having to... It's because I'm not breaking my notes up the way I have been when you talk, and then I keep getting lost.